Welcome to Meet the Authors with your host, Dr. Philip Levin. Mississippi is steeped in the history of literature. From the history of Mississippi, Tennessee Williams, Eudora Welty, John Grisham. We have so many fabulous authors and the time to read our books. And we're glad that we have at this show an opportunity to meet new authors, local writers who have come up and presenting their books to you in our audience. Today we have three authors. We have Marion Bowman, who will be first talking about her memoir, which she's gone all over the world. We have Beth Magee, who's published 20 books, all sorts of different genres, and including memoirs as well, and Chicken Soup. And we'll end up with Joe Seward, who is a poet renowned, has many interesting stories about his life and the many things he's done. So stay tuned. After this break, we'll be back with Meet the Authors and see all these wonderful people. Be right back.
$30 can really make a difference, and we're asking you to do just that.
What will your $30 buy?
A tent for a homeless person who has no place to sleep. Or
breakfast for 15 people who live in poverty. Or
a monthly bus pass for someone without transportation, and much,
much more. Make a difference for a fellow Mississippian who needs our help. Give a $30 donation today.
Mental Health Association of South Mississippi, promoting mental wellness since 1963.
Imagine an era of renewed prosperity, underwritten by a job-creating economic stimulus, powered by abundant clean energy sources. America's clean energy sector already employs more people than the oil and gas fields. So imagine the jobs that would be created if we got serious. This is our future, America. This is the plan. Visit citizensclimatelobby.org. Working together, we can build a better, more prosperous future.
A scientist, a shrimper, a historic hotel guest, an artist, a grocer, a famous TV chef. Be what you want to be. Learn what it's like to be me. Play house in the trees, travel the seas, see new sights, reach new heights, discover friends, discover fun. Lynn Meadows for children and everyone. Discover all Lynn Meadows Discovery Center has to offer at lmdc.org.
Hi, I'm L.L. Lee. Are you a devoted Saints fan, or you know someone who is or was? If you are, you'll want to read my book, The Forever Saints Fan Club. It's a tribute to the New Orleans Saints and to 4 devoted fans who love them and loved me unconditionally. You can get the books at Bay Books in Bay St. Louis or go to Amazon.com.
How you doing? It's the doctor.
And I am the doctor who writes. And I'm having a grand time today selling a lot of my books. And my best book is this one, The Tides of Mississippi. 6 first place awards across the region, and I'm really, really proud of it. It's doing very well.
Well, congratulations for such an honor.
Thanks so much. Welcome back to Meet the Authors. Our first guest tonight is Marion Bowman. Marion has just published her first book. It's called Sailing into the Wind. It's a memoir of her really fascinating life. You know, memoirs are interesting because not only they tell a person's story and get the message out, but depending on how the author presents herself, you can really get into the emotions, the feelings of what it feels like to be in these situations. Tell me, Marion, what made you decide to write this memoir?
Well, I was sitting on my porch, and I'm going to read a little bit about that. I have a place called a sanctuary place, which is my front porch. I live on the beach, and I get to look at the beautiful Gulf of Mexico that we have here, and it inspires me to write all the time. And my memoir is written when I'm sitting on my little porch. And I want to read just a little segment that would tell a little bit of the story of my memoir.
That'd be great.
It goes, when I look back on my life, I see a girl searching for who she is and who she will become. Sometimes she found herself, or she thought she did, but then lost herself again. Life is often 2 steps forward and 1 step back, as the song goes. I also see a thirst for adventure and a struggle for identity and independence. That comes from the section of my book called Sanctuary. It's my sanctuary place that I go to, and that's at the beginning of the book.
Yeah, your sanctuary. Everyone should have one, a place to write, a place to feel comfortable. I really like that. I was talking earlier about the intensity of your writing. I picked out a few phrases that I really like. If I put on my glasses.
So I just dropped mine.
Yeah, pick them up. If the fan had not been making a whirling noise, my thumping heart would have been heard, just as sure as thunder booms in the sky before a summer storm. I love that writing. You have such intense visualizations. So this book talks a little bit about your youth and about your marriages and such, but what I think I found most fascinating was your many travels. Tell us about some of that. Tell me about your trip to Saudi Arabia, how that came about, and some of the efforts you had through there.
Well, Saudi Arabia was an adventure. I had been married for a while, and I thought we'd need a little change in our marriage. So
that's a change, all right.
So I suggested to my husband that he take a lateral trip to Saudi Arabia for 2 years, but we would only go for 1 year because the children were still in high school. And so I thought it would be a great time, a great adventure. On the way to Saudi Arabia, we stopped in Europe and visited many European countries, and that was very enlightening too to me. But Saudi Arabia, don't ask me why I chose Saudi Arabia. I guess I was just looking for a change. And it was a very big change because women were very oppressed there. But being with the Corps of Engineers, where my husband was, we had all the niceties that a military family would have. So, but I really learned to see what it's like to live in an oppressed society where women couldn't drive. There were, they couldn't go to shopping centers or anything because there were no shopping centers, and they still aren't today. So it's still a very oppressed country as far as women is concerned.
And part of the book is about your work in Ukraine. How you wrote it's a diary, and you wrote about how you went there and you didn't speak any of the language, and how you picked up on as a school teacher starting a new program. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I was at a writing conference actually in Idaho. And I was talking to a fellow, and he says, you should look into this organization called IESC. It's International Service Corps. It's like the Service Corps, but it's more for managers that want to bring something to a culture. And so I got this letter from this gal in Ukraine, asked me if I would come. I'm an educator, and I was running a Montessori school at the time. I started many schools. And so she wanted me to come because they wanted to do a program that would teach individualization and free thinking, and that was what my Montessori program is all about. And so I went there as a consultant for a month and a half or two, and it was quite a different experience, and I was wondering why I was going to a country that had never even seen an American, so I was like a celebrity when I went there. And so that was the reason, and I guess I just had that adventure spirit. And I think that's what I try to portray in my book, my sense of adventure that propelled me into who I am today, to be this sort of independent, adventurous person.
It's a wonderful story and really a model for a lot of people to learn from, how to run their own life. Tell me, how many different countries have you been to?
Oh, I guess sometimes it's better to say how many I haven't been to. I'm planning to go to Vietnam in November,
really?
Which I haven't done, and I've been watching that special on PBS the last few nights. I've been to, China, India, South Africa, you name it. I've been pretty much all over the world. Morocco, not too long ago. I even went to Cuba about 3 months ago. So
that's amazing.
I try to go to different cultures. I've been to Paris so many times, Europe mainly, that I prefer trying to go to countries that aren't in Europe, outside of Europe, smaller countries that aren't so crowded with tourists. That's something I can learn from, something that I can experience so that I can come back and write about it.
That's great. Well, I love your book. I love reading it and the great philosophies. Tell the audience, where is it that they can buy your book? Where can they get your book?
Well, you can buy my book at Barnes & Noble's. I did a book signing there a couple weeks ago, and also on Amazon. Most people buy it on Amazon. I'm sure you can get it at all the local bookstores because I got it at the bookstore. I have several at the local bookstore in Bay St. Louis, And right now, my book's only been out about 2 months. So right now I'm in the marketing stage of my book. And so I'm trying to promote my book, promote my name, promote my story mainly. So I think I have a story that women can relate to, especially women that are in the 40s, 50s age group that are going through different experiences in life.
That was great. That's really fascinating stories. We really enjoyed having you on our show, Marion. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Philip, for asking me.
All right. So next up, our next guest is going to be Mary Beth Magee, a very big treat. She's written so many books. This is one of my favorites, Death and the Daylilies, sort of a mystery, and she has 20 books to talk about. So stay tuned, because right after this break, we have another author, a local author from Mississippi for you. We'll be right back.
$30 can really make a difference, and we're asking you to do just that.
What will your $30 buy?
A tent for a homeless person who has no place to sleep, or
breakfast for 15 people who live in poverty, or
a monthly bus pass for someone without transportation, and much,
much more. Make a difference for a fellow Mississippian who needs our help. Give a $30 donation today.
Mental Health Association of South Mississippi, promoting mental wellness since 1963.
Hi, I'm L.L. Lee. Are you a devoted Saints fan, or you know someone who is or was? If you are, you'll want to read my book, The Forever Saints Fan Club. It's a tribute to the New Orleans Saints and to 4 devoted fans who loved them and loved me unconditionally. You can get the books at Bay Books in Bay St. Louis, or go to Amazon.com.
How you doing? It's the doctor.
And I am the doctor who writes. And I'm having a grand time today selling a lot of my books. And my best book is this one, The Tides of Mississippi. 6 first-place awards across the region, and I'm really, really proud of it. It's doing very well.
Well, congratulations for such an honor.
Thanks so much.
A scientist, a shrimper, a historic hotel guest, an artist, a grocer, a famous TV chef. Be what you want to be. Learn what it's like to be me. Play house in the trees, travel the seas, see new sights, reach new heights, discover friends, discover fun. Lynn Meadows for children and everyone. Discover all Lynn Meadows Discovery Center has to offer at lmdc.org.
Welcome back to Meet the Authors. On this segment, I'm very proud and honored to have Mary Beth Magee. Mary Beth Magee has come down from Poplarville to our studio to talk about her many successful writing books. She has succeeded in writing and being published in Chicken Soup and in national journals with her many stories, and she has nearly 20 books published, and she's here today to talk about some of them. So Mary Beth, tell us about some of your books.
Well, my very first novel was Death and the Daylilies. It was inspired by the Hattiesburg Daylily driving tour. Ran into all these beautiful daylilies, and I came around a bush and I could visualize a body
That's sort of
laying in that garden, and it just sort of went from there. Okay. And that was my therapy after my mom died.
So tell me about that book. You wrote the book. How long did it take you to write the book?
About a year from the time I began to the time it came out.
Okay, that's not long at all.
No, it was my therapy. As I say, after my mom died, all the time that I had spent caring for her went into writing the book.
That's wonderful. And so how did you get it published? Tell us about the publishing on it.
I was accepted by a little publisher in Arkansas, and I thought, oh, great, you know, I'm going to be published. This is so cool. And then he said, no, he couldn't publish it for my mom's birthday.
Oh.
And that was important to me because this book is dedicated to my mom. It was for my mom, who always wanted to see my name on a binding. She'd seen my name in lots of books, but not on a binding of my own. So the publisher and I parted ways. It turned out to be a good thing because he went out of business about a year later. And I self-published and have found that it's a great way to go if you want to have control over when it comes out and how it looks when it comes out.
Oh, I agree with you. I do a lot of my books self-publishing, and I've always loved that control and the sense of how I can do the books my way. Yeah. And what else have you brought for us?
Well, the sequel to Death in the Daylilies is Ambush at the Arboretum. Now, these are the LOL to the fourth power mysteries, which is little old ladies laughing out loud, living our lives with lots of love. It's 3 senior ladies getting into mischief. In Death in the Daylilies, they found the body in the daylilies. This one, there's a baby under the porch.
Ooh. It's not dead.
Not dead, no, this one's alive. The other people are the bodies. And they get into mischief trying to find out who the baby belongs to, how it got there. And, you know, if you think of Murder, She Wrote and how she's always getting involved in things even though the police are saying just back off, leave it alone. You know, we're little old ladies, we're grandmas at heart. We have to be involved to rescue people.
I love that philosophy.
We just have to do that. And then my latest is a poetry book called Grandpa's Mustache. It's dedicated, it's a children's book, it's a coloring book, and it is dedicated to grandchildren and their grandpas with mustaches and the love between them as symbolized by the mustache. And with your permission, I'd like to share a few lines.
Please.
Okay. This is, well, my dad had a mustache, so I have some experience in the realm.
Before you start, just show the camera how big the print is. Turn it around.
Oh, well, it's a Gillette. Whoops, which one? There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
This is designed that as children learn to read, they can read it themselves, but it's read aloud for the small children. I love my grandpa's mustache. It tickles when we hug. And sometimes when he drinks his tea, it goes into the mug. His mustache is so handsome. Whenever Grandpa grins, his mustache moves just like his lips and curves up on the ends. Oops, come here, you. He has a tiny little comb to keep his mustache neat. He lets me watch him comb it as a very special treat. And it sort of goes on from there.
That is so cute. I love that story. What fun. And,
it is.
And who did you have illustrate?
Callie Edwards, the amazing Miss Callie Edwards, whose uncle just happens to be the current governor of Louisiana, John Bell Edwards, was an art student at the time we began. She is now graduated and out there making her living in the world of art. But Callie is amazing. She caught what I wanted to capture of, this is not a particular grandpa, this is everybody's grandpa.
I love
it is not ethnically specific, so anyone can see their grandpa in it.
So very briefly, tell me a little bit about some of the other work. I'm really interested in how you got into the chicken soup books.
I poured my heart out. When my mom passed away, and I poured myself into writing Death in the Daylilies, the day that that box of books arrived it was a watershed. It was just so powerful to touch that box of books and know that this was what I had done for my mother and in her memory. And then Chicken Soup came up with a title, thanks to my mom. Well, it's thanks to my mom that I'm still writing because all my life she has believed in my writing. Oh. And so I talked about getting that box of books and how I wrote it for her and how it came about. And after 25 years of trying to get into Chicken Soup for the Soul, I made it.
That is a wonderful story.
Yeah.
So tell the people where they can get your books.
Well, they can get them at, here on the coast, they can get them at Southern Bound Bookstore. They can get them at Barzay Place in Picayune, Mississippi. Through Amazon, of course. They can get them in Slidell, Louisiana at Faith Christian Bookstore. Just a lot of different places around. I've got a couple of retail places in Poplarville that are handling it, Big Deal Outlet, and the Sandy's Business Center. But also, of course, they can get it on Amazon. They can order it through Barnes & Noble, through Books A Million. Any bookstore can order it. It's available.
All right, show your book one more time, the Daylily book, and the other one. And,
this is a, spread them like a deck of cards.
Thank you for coming, Mary Beth. We're so glad you
Thank
come
you.
join us at Meet the Authors. And we have another segment coming up after the break, and I think we're in for a real delight. We have Joe Seward, who's been on the coast for 40 years and is going to talk about his career and his writing, reading some of his delightful poems. So stay with us, and after this break, we'll introduce Joe Seward to the world.
Hi, I'm L.L. Lee. Are you a devoted Saints fan, or you know someone who is or was? If you are, you'll want to read my book, The Forever Saints Fan Club. It's a tribute to the New Orleans Saints and to 4 devoted fans who love them and loved me unconditionally. You can get the books at Bay Books in Bay St. Louis or go to Amazon.com.
How you doing? It's the doctor.
And I am the doctor who writes. And I'm having a grand time today selling a lot of my books. And my best book is this one, The Tides of Mississippi. 6 first place awards across the region, and I'm really, really proud of it. It's doing very well.
Well, congratulations for such an honor.
Thanks so much. And welcome back to Meet the Authors. This is our 3rd segment for today's show, and I'm very proud and happy to introduce Joe Seward. Joe Seward's a longtime coastal native. Though not from here originally. Where were you from originally, Joe?
Originally, I was born in Texas, but I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we wound up in Mississippi because I was in the Air Force. And we retired here from the Air Force, and we sort of fell in love with Ocean Springs, so we built a home and stayed here.
That is wonderful. You know what I really like about your image? You're just like this old Mississippi poet. Just sit back and write your poetry. I love your presentation. In fact, your military, you're telling me before the show a story I really want you to tell us now about the first poem you had published when you were working in Panama. Tell us that story.
Well, I was a very young man stationed in at Albrook Air Force Base in Panama City, Panama. And down in Panama at that time, there were 2 breweries. There was the Balboa Brewery and the Milwaukee Brewery. And my favorite beer was Balboa. And one night I was drinking beer in a place, and I got a little idea, and so I borrowed a pencil from a waiter and scribbled down a little poem, and it was called Ode to Balboa. And it goes something like this. To you, dear sir, I raise my glass and marvel at your cunning. For as I read your history, sir, I find your feats most stunning. I can't conceive the things you did, the hardships you endured, as you across the isthmus pushed, by naught but dreams were lured. When you stood on that mountaintop and gazed upon the sea, there was a scene created that will live in history. Now you, dear sir, have many feats, on some I have expounded, but what you are most famous for is the brewery that you founded. Well, I got a wild idea, and I typed it out and sent it to the director of the Balboa Brewery, and in about 2 weeks, I received back a card from that director that said that I had an endless supply free Balboa beer as long as I was in the country. And so that was my first payment.
And they published that one on the menus of their...
Yes, they did. I got to see my poem many times.
So you've written poems throughout your life, and you sent me a couple to look over, and I want you to read one for us now.
Okay. This was written when I was concerned about my weight and was wanting to take off a few pounds.
We can all identify with that, can't we?
And I was standing on the bathroom scale one morning and click got these ideas. And the title of this thing is Lines Composed a Few Feet Above a Bathroom Scale. Goes like this. There squats the smirking bathroom scale that very soon will tell the tale of who will win and who will fail. Will self-control or food prevail? And is it all worth my travail? Now very soon that fateful dial will pass its judgment on my trial, and in its cool, indifferent style will register my self-denial and tell me, is it all worthwhile? I see the dial between my toes, and round the needle goes, and oh my God, my belly shows. What will that evil thing disclose? I bend and stoop to read my fate and hope that it will not inflate and magnify my wretched state, or else will not exaggerate at some wild exponential rate. I look again, my joys abound. What wondrous thing is this I've found? My belly isn't half so round. My mouth emits a happy sound. I've lost another ugly pound.
Yay! That is a great poem. I love your poetry. So what inspires you? I see bathroom scales and beer inspires you. So when do you find that you're writing poetry?
Why or where or how?
Whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I have to be inspired by something. If it works me up, it comes out in rhyme. But otherwise, I mean, I just write what affects me and what stirs me up. And believe me, I have some poems that we could not read on the air.
Joe, it was a delight to have you on the show. Thanks for coming out and talking to us and reading us your poetry.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right. So we really appreciate having our local authors come out and talk to us. Some are published, some are just amateur poets like this, some are writing memoirs which get their heart out. All of you who are interested in writing could be writers too. Just keep that in mind and soon you'll be sitting here next to me too. Meanwhile, I hope you'll turn in on the next program again with Meet the Authors by Philip Levin. Thanks for tuning in.